Real life science.
We've got a fascinating video from Scott Manley on how do Starlink satellites navigate to their final operational orbits. If you enjoy seeing really, really cool data visualizations, you'll love this. Plus, it taught me a lot of things I didn't know about how these SpaceX, Starlink satellites work. By now, you've probably heard about the thousands of Starlink satellites that SpaceX is launching to low Earth orbit to eventually provide high-speed internet to most of the Earth's surface. In this video this week, Scott Manley described the really clever way that these satellites, thousands of them, get to their final orbits. Rather than completely brute forcing it with thrusters and propellant, they use some tricks of gravity and sort of the geometry of the planet to put them in the right place. It's a very complex operation, and Scott has created beautiful visualizations using some of his own custom programmed Python code. You may have heard about how strings of these satellites are causing headaches for astrophotographers. That's not really what this is about, but it's to point out that the way these things are launched, they're launched in these sort of clumps. Big clumps of these get shoved out the back of the rocket when it gets to orbit. And after they've drifted apart a little bit, they unfold and orient themselves. And because of how low these orbits are initially, they can take advantage of a gravity effect caused by the Earth not being perfectly spherical. So the Earth has a bulge around its equator, and this makes the gravity field uneven as the satellites go around it, and it causes them to precess. Precession, it's called. So the axes of their orbits themselves, the orbit rotates around the Earth about 4 degrees per orbit. And his visualizations are really helpful to understand really how this works. And so each of the satellites has this little ion engine on it, and they don't use that for shifting the plane of the orbit per se. What they do is they simply raise or lower the altitude of the individual orbit, and because that changes how much of this precession happens because of the bulge in the Earth, they can use that to, in a very precise way, to get each of the thousands of these satellites to end up in the right, the right plane and the right part in the ring of the orbit by the time it's done. And so once they've got it in the right plane, they again use the altitude adjustment, and that, when they go up higher, they go slower. When they're down lower, they go faster. So this helps to make it so that in a given ring of the orbit, they all get evenly spaced out. Definitely worth watching the visualizations of this, because it's I think it's just fascinating, and it's a little hard to understand unless you can see these great videos he's made to explain it. So well worth checking out.
First off, Roy, how dare you call out the Earth's bulge around the equator? It's during COVID. The Earth hasn't been able to get out to the gym, and Kentucky Fried Chicken is still open. So stop it. Tweaked, you're up.
All right. Up next, we have a little story. Astronomers have found signs of a planet that may have a life-supporting atmosphere, according to a study published just yesterday. The study focuses on a planetary system named after the star that it orbits, L98-59, which is just 35 light years from Earth. Using a telescope placed in Chile, they were able to find a rocky planet with half the mass of Venus, as well as an ocean world in the solar system. But most excitedly, they found a fifth planet in the habitable zone, which is the Goldilocks zone. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, so things could, possibly live there. And they think it has the possibility of liquid water on the surface as well. So they're hoping to be able to get some satellites and stuff like that up that way 35 light years is still like an enormous amount away from us and with our technology right now, but we're starting to find this stuff ever so much closer to home, and it's kind of exciting. It seems like every day there's another story like this coming out.
Yes, they actually, scientists knew that it was a rocky planet when they had the radio telescopes pointed at it, and they heard, "Yo, I could have been a contender." All right, that was my bad joke for the night. Yeah. All right, that takes us to
stroke.
No, Rocky. You know, yo, Adrian. He was a mumble mouth. Like that's how he talked the whole movie. All right, never mind. Never mind.
Okay.
Screw all of you guys.
Now
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, jokes are good when you explain them.